For many people, bookstores are magical places. They hold stories that have shaped generations, tales of adventures, heartbreak, and most famously, romance. But not every love story is as beautiful as it seems.
Like, let's think about it. How often do we come across books where obsession is painted as passion, control is disguised as care, and unhealthy relationships are romanticized? It's easy to disregard it, but it's everywhere. From the classic novels we know, to today's reading trends that are popular on so many social media platforms.
So, that begs the question, why are we drawn to these stories? How did they become so ingrained in the way we see love? And what does it say about the society we live in when these tales keep finding their way back onto our shelves and into our minds?
It's time to take a step back to reality, peel back the layers, and look closely at the trends that keep these distorted ideas alive. From the timeless classics to the latest BookTok sensations, let's explore how fiction shapes, and sometimes fools, us.
I am Tanisha.
And I'm Elena.
This is literature and the truth behind the stories we love to believe. Literature has always been a window to society, revealing its values, struggles, and aspirations. When it comes to romance, many classic stories paint love as pure and idealized, often culminating in a perfect happily ever after. But of course, not all stories follow the script.
An example would be Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. It was published in 1847. This Victorian novel broke the mold of its time. Instead of a polite, controlled romance, it gave us a story of obsessive and all-consuming passion, a love so intense it challenges societal rules and even death.
Catherine and Heathcliff's relationship is far from the gentle, predictable romances typical of their era. Their love is raw, destructive, and haunting, which is a sharp contrast to the Victorian ideal of love as a manageable and harmonious force.
Authors like Jane Austen and Emily Bronte's sister, Charlotte Bronte, shaped the romantic ideals of their time. Stories of courtship, virtue, and clear moral lessons. But Emily Bronte dared to go against the grain. Her characters are deeply flawed. Catherine is fiercely independent but also selfish, while Heathcliff's bitterness and rage stem from rejection and social exclusion.
Even Edgar Linton, the seemingly virtuous suitor, has his own moral ambiguities. These imperfections blur the lines between hero and villain and love and destruction. This shift in storytelling did not stop with the Victorian era. It laid the foundation for contemporary literature which explores love and relationship through a lens of realism shaped by the complexities of today's world.
Contemporary literature reflects the issues and concerns of modern life: identity, gender, race, class, and even technology. These stories challenge norms, pushing us to confront uncomfortable truths and examine our own biases.
Contemporary literature also draws from the legacy of postmodernism, which emerged in the mid-20th century. Postmodernism works were known for their experimental styles, metafiction, unreliable narrators, and intertextuality. While contemporary stories sometimes carry these traits, they focus more on realism and character-driven narratives, often portraying a harsher reality shaped by societal disillusionment.
Literature has always reflected and shaped our understanding of love. Yet, as we've seen, these stories often blur the lines between idealized romance and toxic relationships. They challenge conventions, but they can also perpetuate problematic notions of passion, power, and control.
As we continue to consume these narratives, it's worth asking, are these portrayals offering us valuable insights into the complexities of human connection, or are they reinforcing distorted ideals of what love should be? Literature holds a mirror to society, but it also has the power to influence how we see ourselves and each other. Recognizing that duality is the first step in navigating its impact on our perceptions of romance. So, why do we find ourselves drawn to stories that depict unconventional relationships? Now, the allure can often stem from curiosity and attraction, our fascination with the unusual or even the forbidden. These narratives create a boundary between reality and fantasy, which allows readers to explore intense emotions and high-stakes drama without actual risk.
Psychologists Horton and Wall introduced the term parasocial interactions in 1956. The term clarifies how people form one-sided relationships with fictional characters in the media, even if those characters exhibit toxic traits. This connection helps to explain why audiences feel attached to stories featuring unhealthy dynamics.
The attachment theory by Bowlby takes it further. It displays how individual attachment styles such as avoidant or anxious attachment can make readers more receptive to these romanticized toxic relationships, as they might subconsciously seek out familiar dynamics in relationships, even when they are unhealthy. So for some, it reflects their own relational patterns, making the stories resonate with them on a deeper level.
Unfortunately, this fascination can come at a cost. We can take Anna Todd's After series as an example. The main couple, Hardin and Tessa's relationship, is steeped in possessiveness, manipulation, and even emotional abuse. But it's framed as passionate and thrilling.
Yes, exactly. Hardin's controlling behavior reinforces the harmful idea that jealousy equals affection. His aggression is portrayed as intense passion, and Tessa's forgiveness normalizes a cycle of abuse.
What is even worse is that this series blurs the line of consent, suggesting that persistence and coercion are acceptable in romantic pursuits. By glamorizing these dynamics, these type of stories can perpetuate rape culture, teaching audiences, especially the young ones, that toxicity can be romantic or even desirable.
This exposure has subconscious effects. It desensitizes readers to abusive behaviors, reframing possessiveness and jealousy as love. It also reinforces damaging stereotypes, men as dominant, women as submissive, and this fosters unrealistic relationship expectations.
For survivors of abuse, such portrayals can re-traumatize, while others may develop a savior complex, thinking they can fix a toxic partner. Tropes like "I can fix him" glorify emotional labor, suggesting it's one person's responsibility to heal another at their own expense.
These tropes, love conquers all, love triangles, or even enemies to lovers, glorify unhealthy jealousy, competition, and emotional manipulation. They teach audiences to tolerate or even seek out toxic relationships while ignoring the importance of respect, communication, as well as equality.
The danger is clear. While these narratives can entertain, they distort perceptions of healthy relationships, trivialize real harm, and perpetuate systemic issues. Media literacy is crucial to challenge these portrayals and foster healthier ideals of love and romance.
To really understand why toxic narratives have become so popular, we need to look at the bigger picture, like the societal forces that make them thrive. One key player here is BookTok, a TikTok subculture that has completely reshaped how we talk about and consume books, especially romance novels. Rising to prominence during the pandemic, BookTok evolved into a powerful cultural force, shaping reading trends and, by extension, the kinds of stories that dominate contemporary literature.
BookTok creators often share their book recommendations and reviews, typically centered around popular fiction tropes. These videos frequently incorporate annotations, aesthetic visuals, and engaging storytelling, making them not only informative, but very consumable. The algorithmic nature of TikTok amplifies these trends, ensuring that the most dramatic and most controversial narratives go viral.
But here's where it gets complicated. Platforms like TikTok do not just reflect consumer preferences, they shape them. And by emphasizing aesthetics and relatability over critical analysis, BookTok fosters a culture where books are consumed more as social commodities than as pieces of literature. This often prioritizes marketability over substance, which promotes stories that romanticize toxic dynamics because they evoke strong emotional reactions and drive sales.
Another aspect of this phenomenon is how consumerism drives normalization of toxic relationship dynamics in romance literature. The work gains traction because they are emotionally provocative, controversial, and therefore commercially lucrative.
Yes, because the more dramatic and problematic the relationships are depicted, the more likely they are to become viral sensations.
This creates a self-reinforcement cycle. The viral nature of these books generate curiosity and sparks debates, drawing in more readers who consume these narratives.
And so, the normalization of toxic dynamics in romance literature becomes part of a larger sociological trend, fueled by consumerism, social media, and the cultural elevation of certain tropes. This phenomenon highlights the need for critical media literacy and healthier representations in contemporary storytelling.
And so, what does this mean for us, especially in this age we're living in? As teenagers, young adults, and even those who influence younger generations, we're constantly bombarded with different concepts of life. These ideas aren't just in books or movies. They're embedded in the trends we consume, the social media we scroll through, and the conversations we engage in.
And while these trends might feel enlightening, offering us a window into life's many experiences, it's crucial to be mindful of what we're taking in. When it comes to romances, this mindfulness becomes even more important.
Think about it. Every time we celebrate a brooding character as the epitome of love, we risk normalizing these dynamics in our own lives. It's not just fiction. These stories seep into our subconscious, coloring our expectations and even our choices.
But here's the empowering part. We have the ability to choose, to consume critically, to question. That doesn't mean we can't enjoy these stories or find meaning in them. It just means we should approach them with awareness.
In the end, the stories we consume shape the lives we lead. Let us all make sure the ones we hold closest inspire us to build something better, both for ourselves and the generations to come.